Right, today we are learning the last and final depreciation method that we have here. We're also going to be looking at 11.4, which is talking about amortization, which I'll explain what that is later. But in total, we've learned units of production and we've learned double declining. Now, today we're going to be learning straight line. And just as it sounds in its name, you're going to be looking at it in a straight line. So, what am I talking about? So, before we get started on what the definition for straight line is, we have the same five components. And again, these five components is going to make up and pretty much direct you exactly where you need to go when you are doing your formulas. So you need the asset cost, you need the estimated useful life. Okay, we're not going to be using units of production anymore or estimated of units produced. We're going to be looking at its useful life. We're going to make sure that it has a salvage value or a residual value, and this is one of the very important things that you also need to know is the date of when the asset is placed into service. Okay, so again, we're looking at another time sensitive kind of depreciation, right? So we're going to be looking at it as if it's only 3.5 years instead of a full 4 years. Okay, so time sensitive is very key. And then lastly, the depreciation method. So again, we've looked at units of production, double declining, and lastly, we're going to be looking at straight line. Okay? Now, what is straight line? It pretty much is this. Straight line is taking the entire total cost of the asset and spreading it evenly across its estimated useful life. Okay, so if you let's look at these formulas that we see here. There are now, it's a combination of both methods that we learned, right? It's a combination of units of production and it's also a combination of double declining. Okay, so let's review again. It literally is going to be your total cost of the asset and you're going to spread it evenly across its useful life, right? So how do we determine the depreciation basis? It's going to be your cost of asset minus salvage value, right? We saw this before in our units of production, right? Our depreciation rate is going to be 1, like the number 1, divided by the estimated useful life. We saw this yesterday for double declining, except it was multiplied by 2. Okay? So this is why it is very important that you have the different methods and you have their different formulas for each one so you don't mix them up or get confused, all right? Then lastly, all three methods the rest of the three equations all are the same, right? You got your depreciation expense is going to be your depreciation basis times rate. Then you have your accumulated depreciation, which is previous years accumulated plus current depreciation expense. And then lastly, book value will always be your cost minus accumulated depreciation. Okay? So, again, we're looking at a kind of hybrid looking kind of method. We get to look at a portion of units of production and a portion of double declining, and here it's smashed together and here they are. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the example here. So example number 1, right? Record the depreciation for the first year. All right, so we have a machine. Its asset cost is $15,000. Salvage value is $2,500. Useful life is 5 years, and the number of units it can produce is 10,000. And the date that we place it into service is January 1st. Now, again, we don't care about how much the item can produce. We care about its useful life and when you placed it into service. Okay. So let's go ahead and solve this. Let's solve for the depreciation basis. Good. 12,500. Okay, so the next one we're going to be doing is rate. Rate is going to be 1 over its estimated useful life.
%.
20% is correct. All right. And then lastly, I keep saying lastly. Next is our depreciation expense. What is our depreciation expense for the very first year?
12,500 times 20%.
Good. And we should get
2,500.
good. So our accumulated depreciation is going to be the same as before, right? And lastly, what is our book value as of year number 1?
12,500.
12,500. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and solve for the second year. So same thing. Our depreciation basis is going to be our cost of asset minus our salvage value. 1,205 again. And then our rate is going to stay the same. It's going to be 1 over the estimated life.
So with the straight line method, will the rate will the rate be consistent, just like the other depreciation methods?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. So what is my depreciation expense going to be for my second year?
2,500.
2,500. And then, bam. What are you going to notice is, right? Everything is starting to look the same. For my accumulated depreciation, this time it's going to be my previous year plus my current year. So now I'm at 5,000, which is now bringing my book value down to 10,000. Okay, so that's for the second year. Now let's go ahead and do it for the third year.
The same amount on the depreciation.
Good,
Same rate, 20%.
good,
Same thing with the same amount on the depreciation expense.
good,
500.
good. Now, this is what I say when straight line is the easiest method to use, because once you solve for the first year, everything following that is going to be identical. So you're going to be saving a lot of time with straight line, right? All you really need to do is solve for one, and the rest gets taken care of. Okay? And then here's a few things that you got to notice. At the end of its accumulated depreciation, right? You end up with your depreciation basis on the 5th year. Okay? Your book value is going to be for whatever your salvage value is. But what you're going to notice is every year your depreciation basis is going to stay the same. Every year your rate's going to stay the same. And every year your expense is going to be the same. So this is what I was trying to get at. Every year you're spreading the cost out evenly amongst every single amongst its estimated life. So here we took a tally up of exactly how much there is, and we're just dividing it evenly across. So every year you're expected to depreciate the same amount every year until you've reached its end of its life. That's it. Any questions for straight line?
No, ma'am.
It's simple.
It's the easiest one. And of course, this is how I like to teach my class. I like to give you the hard stuff first, and then the easy comes last. Okay? So let's go ahead and talk about how to journalize this. Okay? So let's go ahead and journalize for the first year.
Depreciation expense
To
is 2,500.
good. And then what's my credit?
And accumulated the same amount. Accumulated depreciation
Good.
2,500 credit.
Good. What about, and then my second year, right? So the next one is that every year your journal's going to look identical as well. So every year your journal is going to look the same. So every year the journal um, will look the same. Every year. Okay? And that's it. That's straight line for you in one nutshell. So out of all the methods, which one do you like?
This one is the simplest.
Yes, and this one is the one that Gap is widely uses this one for. They expect all major corporations to either do this one or do double declining. Now, of course, because with the concept of hey, you're going to be using this machine more often, right? Then that's the assumption. But with double declining, you have to take that last extra step, right? To either fix the top or fix the very last year. In this case, there is no need to fix the last year, right? We're at where we're at, okay? And we just depreciate it every year for the same exact amount until we end up matching, right? Let's go back. We end up matching the total amount of depreciation, right, is going to equal your depreciation basis, and your book value is going to equal salvage value. Okay. All right. Any questions in regards to this straight line depreciation? It's the easiest, simplest, and all you need to do is focus on finding the number of years and just spreading the asset cost amongst those years. Pretty straightforward. Any questions?
Which one is used by most businesses or companies?
A lot of them
Simple,
use straight line.
straight line.
Yes, because that way you don't have to deal with extra calculations or extra formulas. And like again, it's the easiest way. Again, think about it. If you're dealing with a million assets, right, or like hundreds of thousands of assets, right, straight line would probably be the easiest. Again, that way you don't have to take it by individual case, and you would have to calculate them individually. You would just take one number and you would just go ahead and calculate it evenly across. Hold on, let me add Dina to the class. Okay. So again, pretty solid and pretty straightforward when it comes to a straight line, and widely used is going to be straight line. US GAAP, all corporations are required to use straight line. Okay. So as I talking earlier in the beginning of class, one thing that we need to know is that this is also very time sensitive. So we have to deal with partial years. So in this example, okay, on October 1st, a machine was purchased for $10,000 and its useful life is 5 years, and it has a capacity of 25,000 units, or it could produce it, right? It also has a salvage value of 2,500. All right, and at the end of its it has a sorry, I read that wrong. It has a salvage value of 2,500 at the end of its life. Okay, the machine was placed into service on October 18th. Okay, so record the depreciation for the first year. Okay, so in this case, as I said, it's very time sensitive. We got a machine, we place it in service on October 18th. So what does that tell us?
It's partial, and that
Yes.
it's only been in service for a few months.
Good, that's correct, right? So again, so we only need to record for the month of November and December, right? Because it falls um after the 16th, right? So more than half the month is already been has already been passed. So instead of having to calculate it in October, we decided to just move. We decided to just push it along and start depreciating it starting November. Okay. So in this case, we have October, we got November and December, right? That's only 2 months out of 12 that we need to depreciate this asset for. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate the depreciation basis. Okay,
7,500.
7,500. All right, what's the rate?
Calculation 1 divided by the term 5 years. 20%.
20%. And what is 20% of 7,500?
1,500.
It's 1,500, right? But don't forget, that is for one whole year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need that. So let's go ahead. If we know that it's only been in service for November and December, right? It's only 2 months old at this point. So how do we calculate this?
I'm still using the long way.
That's fine.
So how did I came up with 250. So
Okay, good. Anybody else did? What did you guys solve for?
I came up with 250 as well.
250. Shh.
The dog agreed.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me go get and kick her out real quick. Sorry about that. Okay. So if we take our 1,500, we multiply it by 2 and divide it by 12, you're going to get $250 even. Okay. And yep, and that's what you have to depreciate for the first year. Now, of course, that's assuming that the what is it? The partial years, right? The adjustment is happening at December 31st of every year. Of course, when we go back to depreciating the second year, right? The asset should be one full year. It should reach its full year, and then that's where we go back to that 1,500. All right, but good. So that's how we calculate for the first years of depreciation. We need to consider the time that is going to be placed into it. All right. And now that we know that it's only 2 months old, instead of depreciating for the full 1,500, we only depreciate it for $250. Okay. So let's go ahead and practice journalizing this entry. So for the first year, what's my depreciation expense?
250.
250. Good, debit. And my credit is going to be
Accumulated.
For
So
the same amount.
250.
Good. Good. So same thing as like double declining, right? We need to calculate it for accordingly on based on its life, right? If we've only done 2 months, we only record 2 months. If it's 6 months old, only record 6 months old. All right. Any questions in regards to just straight line in general and how we calculated this?
None on my end.
So does that mean on the second year,
Uh huh.
the depreciation expense, because it's one whole year, is it gonna change or is going to be the same as the first year 250?
Well, you does
I
it,
mean
you
1500.
you explained your you kind of explained your answer by answering it yourself.
I wasn't so
Because
sure
it,
with that.
it because yeah, you're right. If it's a full year, right? We've already calculated what 1 year looks like. It's
Mm-hmm.
1500, right? And usually on the second year, you're not going to return it in March, are you? On the
Mm.
second year. I mean, if you do, then yes, it's going to look the same. But in this case, we're keeping it for the rest of its life, right? We're trying to keep it until it's completely exhausted its entire 5 years. So for this example, for the year number two, it's going to be the 1500, the full 1500, because here, think of it this way. We're looking at this partial years as if it was from January to December, right? We've only bought the asset for November and December, right? Now that we've adjusted and we or we recognize the depreciation is only for 250, now the depreciation year is starting all over. It started from January all the way down to December, and it's reached its entire year. So in this case, the second year would be 1500 because it's done a full year of its life already, right? The asset now is 1 year and 2 months. So yes, you would depreciate it for the full amount of 1500. Any other
One
questions?
reason, one
Go.
reason I was asking because the first explanation there, it looks like depreciation basis rate and depreciation expense for all the same figure.
They are all the same.
The first presentation, the first explanation.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to, however, but it's also based on it's on a case to case basis, just like with this example being 2 months old only on the first year.
Yes. But yeah, but no matter what, at the end of the day, you go to for the second year because now you depreciate for the full year. Everything's going to stay the same as far as that. The depreciation base is going to stay the same. The rate's going to stay the same. And after the first year, of course, the depreciation expense will start looking the same until you reach its
Okay.
last fifth year, right? That's where you have to adjust it because it's no longer was it in order to calculate for the full 5 years. Once you reach the fourth year, right, then it's 4 years and 2 months old. You still have 10 months left on it. So you're just going to and I believe I have an example of this in the exercise. So you will get to see what it looks like when you reach the beginning with the partial years all the way until when you reach the end of a partial year. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Now we'll probably explain your question.
I got it. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Any other questions in regards to straight line at all? How to calculate it, um, etc., etc. Anything? Any questions in regards to it?
And so far on my side.
Okay. Well, of course, now we're going to put depreciation aside a bit. The reason why I wanted to teach 11.3 and 11.4 is because you're going to see a very similarity between the two. And you'll see exactly why. So what I'm going to be introducing to you guys called amortization. Now, what is amortization? Amortization, all right, is pretty much a fancy word to tell you how to. It's another fancy word to describe, but also to pretty much say, I want to depreciate intangible assets. So that's the exact definition. You're depreciating intangible assets, and we call it amortization. Just like how I explained to you guys way back in the beginning, when we talked about depreciation in the first place, we don't ever depreciate land. We deplete land, okay? So, again, it's terminology, except every single terminology basically functions the same exact way. They all are identical by definition. It's just that the different types of assets use this kind of word. So again, land is depleted. Tangible assets or fixed assets are depreciated. Intangible assets are amortized. Okay? They all are different terminology, but they all function and do the same exact stuff. Okay? So again, we're going to do a quick review. Well, what is an intangible asset?
An intangible asset, like it says, is a copyright, license, trademark, legal, something that you can't put your hands on, but it has value and it belongs to you.
Correct. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And it's right there in my PowerPoint.
Even a company's reputation.
Yes, goodwill, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is also going to be applied as well as anything that, let's say, for example, licenses, right? Franchises. They have to pay the corporation, right, to use its name. Right there. Perfect example. Good. And what's unique about this is, of course, when you get a patent or when you get a license or any copyright, right? It has an expiration date. So that's what's unique about it. Not only does it have an expiration date, right? It will never hold its value until you renew it. Okay? So very simple, like to any membership cards, right? For example, Costco, right? I don't know I forgot how much it is, but let's just say a Costco membership card is worth $150 for the whole year. For 1 year, it's $150. So if I purchase it, right? When I've reached 1 whole year, does it have any value to it anymore?
No.
No, because when you have to renew it again for another $150, that's when, okay, hey, it's now worth $150. So that is very typical of all patents and all copyrights and licenses, right? Once it expires, right, it no longer has value until you repurchase it or until you renew it. And that's very typical. So now that's the assumption that it doesn't have any salvage value or residual value because of that expiration date. Okay? So typically that is what it does. Okay? Let me see. Normal lifespan can be anywhere from 15 years. This is just a guesstimation. It's not doesn't hold true because there's a lot of patents out there that are only good for 1 year. There's licenses or anything copyrights that are good for 25 years, right? So yes, I know that there are patents or intangible assets that are less than 15 years, right? Most contracts that you do with individuals, they're on a year-to-year basis, right? Most copyrights, especially when you're doing licenses or franchises, they're anywhere from 20 years and beyond because they want to make sure that you keep their good name as well. So with that being said, I just want you to do a general number, right? Because of course every intangible asset is going to be based on what the item is, right? You cannot say that all patents are 1 year. You cannot say all copyrights are 5 years, right? Every single intangible asset is going to be varied in value of time, right? It just depends on what the item is. If it's like a small invention that you want to protect, most likely that's going to be 1 year or easily 3 years, right? But it's and then if you have a patent on a well-known product, of course it's going to be more than exactly. It's going to be on individually based. But for this class in general, I want you to just recognize 15, okay? 15 is going to be our lucky number that we are going to guesstimate for intangible assets. Okay? Um and it's to be renewed, okay? And then you know what the great thing about amortization is? It's going to follow identically of what the straight line method is. So this is why I crammed 11.3 and 11.4 together, because we learned what straight line does. It's going to be identical. We're going to spread its cost evenly across its total lifespan. And then of course there's no salvage value. So that means at the end of its life it should be 0. And it should just be 0. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at this example here. All right, so example, you purchase a $20,000 patent on one of your property, what does that say? Prototypes, okay? You sell it, and you're going to sell it into your store on January 5th, okay? So assume that this patent is good for 15 years, okay? So record this amortization, okay? So again, we have a patent, it's worth $20,000. Its lifespan is 15 years. The depreciation, right? We already know, not depreciation, sorry. Amortization, and we know that the date that we place it in, the date that we buy it is the date that we place into use, right? So we understand that when you buy a patent, it starts the day you buy it. So in this case, I placed it into service, or I used it, right, on January 5th. So how am I going to amortize this patent?
The cost of asset minus salvage based on the formula.
Well,
But
do
then
we have a salvage
we
value?
don't have salvage, so it's going to be the same amount, 20,000.
Exactly.
That's right.
And what's the rate here now? Let me see. Yes. So here we don't have a salvage value, so we can cancel that out. Okay, but we know that it's $20,000 for the depreciation basis. Okay, what is my rate?
0.0667
0.06. I think it's
or
1066666.
0.06666667. Just a bunch of sixes and then a 7.
666.
okay.
Just 7 sixes and 1 7. That's what I
Okay.
got.
All right. What else do we know? What's my depreciation expense going to be?
The, well, it's 5 years? Is that 5 years? 15 years? Okay.
15.
Okay.
That is going to be.
50 times. Go ahead.
You can go ahead, darling. I think I'm looking at
I'm
1,000.
looking at the
Go ahead. I'm gonna let Lynette take it. You got it, babe.
1,333.332.
Good. Good. All right. $1,333.33. All right. Yes, it's a bunch of sixes and sevens. Okay, that's great. And it's $20,000, right? And lastly, if when we calculate it moving forward, your accumulated depreciation is going to be exactly because it's the first year. And then we're going to change its book value and decrease it by the 1333.33. Okay? So again, because we know that this is straight line, or the assumption is you're going to treat it as if it's just like straight line method. That means every year it's going to look identical. You're going to start off with your depreciation basis looking the same. You're going to start off with your rate looking the same. And therefore, everything's going to be looking to the same until you reach to the bottom of its 15th year. It's down to 0. Okay? So again, pretty straightforward. We already know that aspect, and we already know that it's expected that at the end of every single year, it's going to be for 1333.33. All right. So let's go ahead and journalize this, except it's identical to depreciation expense, except we don't call it depreciation anymore. We call it amortization, right? And of course, same thing, right? Amortization, right? Accumulated amortization. Everything looks identical except just terminology is a little different. Okay? And that's it for amortization. That's all I really needed you to know in regards to this course. Okay. Any questions in regards to amortization or straight line
I got
itself?
a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Excuse me. Why is it that we don't carry over the book value, that once we determine the book value from the first year or partial year, we don't carry that over to the next year?
Because it doesn't matter in our case, it doesn't matter what our value is. Because at the end of the day, when we accumulate our depreciation, our book value, it does change. But at the end, when we reach our end of its term, it's going to equal the salvage value without us having to do with anything. All right.
I just think the other ones we had to, we took the book value from the previous year and carried it over to the
Okay.
second year.
So let me see. Let me get back to this one. So here, right? This is an example of the depreciation expense, right? So in this case, we don't need to use our book value. Okay.
Oh,
All we care for right here is the cost of the asset minus its salvage value. So in this case, our value will end up being equal to book value. And that way we don't have to keep checking that mark off. That's just a point of reference whether we did it accurately or we did it correctly, right? But in this case, no matter where we reach at the end of our life, it's going to calculate everything out. And it's going to make sure that when you depreciate everything, you're going to depreciate it for its total amount, and it's going to equal salvage value at the end of its life. Okay? There's no need to take our book value because, in this sense, the way that the formula is, I guess, created or function as, there's no need to take the book value.
gotcha.
Okay?
We just focus on the cost of the asset.
It's just the cost of the asset minus the salvage value for the straight line. But for amortization, there is no salvage value. So you're just depleting. You're just depreciating it evenly across its years, and it should just add up, and it should automatically reach to the point where it does equal salvage value. We don't need to calculate it. But in that other case, when we looked at double declining, right, we need to take the value of the book value because every single year, right, we're cutting it in half every single time, right, or roughly half. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, with that being said, amortization and straight line are pretty much identical to each other. So, here is the formulas here. You got your cost of the asset, right? You got 1 over its estimated useful life, right? And everything else looks the same. And again, just knowing that amortization, right, is identical to straight line, so there's no real, what do you call it? I guess column for it, just because they look the same. Okay. Again, the definition of straight line is to spread its total cost amongst its life evenly. And that's all you really need to know. All right. So, like I said, as expected, straight line is the easiest. It's going to be the quickest one because, again, if you solve for one, the rest should come easily. So let's go ahead and do our first exercise here, and then, as I said earlier, we're more likely to end class very early. Okay. So here, let's go ahead and get started on our first problem. Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple seconds to grab your worksheets out. Okay.
Okay. I calculated a little bit, but I'm not sure if this is correct.
All right. Okay, so you purchase a coffee maker for $250, okay, with no salvage value. So here we're already eliminating our salvage value. All right, its useful life is 5 years, and it can make up to 25,000 pots, okay? And you put this coffee maker into service on January 12th. Okay? So, let's go ahead and fill in our little bubbles here. What is our asset? Oh, oops, I hit the wrong box. It's a coffee maker. All right? What does the asset cost me? $250. Okay? And what is its useful life?
5 years.
5 years. Oh, I'm in salvage value. What's salvage value? None. And lastly, estimated life is 5 years. And when did you place it into service?
January 12th.
January 12th. So what does that mean?
So that means you calculate the depreciation expense based on the 12 years because the first 15 days of the month is, how old is now?
So I
15 months is that's where calculation is.
Good.
Otherwise, you go the following month if it's 16.
Good. So that means we're going to depreciate it starting January. And again, assuming that the adjustment is done at the end of the year, so we're going to depreciate it for its full year. Okay. So what's my depreciation expense going to the depreciation basis going to look like?
250.
It's going to look like 250. Good. Right? Because the cost of the asset is 250 and we have no salvage value. Right? We have no salvage value. So here it's 250. And we know, right? It's just going to be the cost of the asset. What is my rate going to be?
That's 1 divided by 5. That's 1, and that's 0.08333.
Point what?
0.0833. I don't know.
1 divided by 5?
20.
20. Oh gosh.
Yes, it's 20%.
Where did I get?
I don't have a clue either.
I don't know because I was calculating. I probably have used a different figure
Okay.
and things like that. So
So what is going to be our depreciation basis for the first year?
The depreciation basis is 250. Are you talking about the depreciation expense?
Depreciation expense.
$50.
$50, right? We multiply the 250 times it by the 20% or 0.2 in this case, and we get $50, all right? So what is my accumulated depreciation for the first year?
50.
50,
50. And my book value is going to be
200.
200.
200. So it's going to be 250, right? F4 minus my $50. And we're going to get $200. Okay. With our assumption, so what is going to be my depreciation basis for the second year?
The same 250.
Exactly. And understanding that it's going to be the same for the second year, it's going to be the same for the third year, fourth, and fifth year. Okay. I guess it won't take my formula.
It did the same thing to me.
Okay, so boom, there you go. Now they're all 250. Okay? And then my depreciation rate is going to be the same,
The same.
right? For
Yeah.
all 5 years. Okay? And what does that mean for my depreciation expense? It's going to be what?
Same 50 as well.
It's going to stay the same throughout the 5 years as well. Okay? So with that being said, all we really need to do is calculate our accumulated depreciation for every single year. So my first accumulated depreciation for the second year should be how much?
100.
100. And of course, with our book value, it should be now worth how much?
150.
150. Same thing here. My accumulated depreciation for the third year is going to be
150.
150. And my book value for the third year is going to be
100.
100. And then my fourth year accumulated depreciation should be
200.
200. And making my book value for the fourth year to be
50.
50. And then lastly, my accumulated depreciation for the last and final year is going to be
250.
250. And my book value is going to be
0.
0. See? And that's exactly what we have. We can use our point of reference, right? We could say the fifth year of my accumulated depreciation, which is the amount of depreciation expense I'm going to collect, is equivalent to my depreciation basis. Okay? And what do you know? We have no salvage value, so my book value is equivalent to my salvage value, which should be 0. Pretty straightforward, quick and easy, and that's it. Okay? So again, the next 2 questions is going to be to journalize the adjustment entry for the first year and for the second year. So in this case, what's my journal going to be? Assuming that it's going to be on December 31st.
Depreciation expense debit 50. And the accumulated depreciation credit 50.
A cube. All right, 450. And this is 450. Okay, good. And then what is it going to look like for the second year?
The same amount.
it's going to look exactly how you journalized it here. Every year, the journal is going to look identical. Right? Your journal will look the same, and your amounts are going to look the same. All right? Pretty straightforward. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simple.
Pretty simple. Exactly. So here on this one, we get to look at a different asset, and I'm going to get a little bigger. So for example number 4, okay, you purchase a couch for $2,485, okay, which includes all fees, okay, with a salvage value of $150, okay. Its useful life is 7 years, okay, and you put this couch into service on August 25th, okay, so there you go, August 25th. Assume that the adjustments are made every month. Ooh, okay, so now I'm getting a little twist in here. All right. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and determine what is my asset.
Couch.
It's a couch. Good. All right. What is my total asset cost?
2485.
2485. All right, and I'm going to make this dollar value. All right, how much is my salvage value?
150.
150. Good. 150 should be my salvage value. And what is my useful life? 7 years. And then lastly, when did I place it into service?
August 25.
August 25th. So what does that tell me?
Not
Couple
yeah.
of months.
You've only this couch is only a couple months old if we are going to depreciate it by year. But in this case, this is a special case. We need to depreciate it by month. Okay? So, let's go ahead and try to solve for this one. Okay? So, what is my depreciation basis going to look like?
2485.
2485. What else?
No, there's a salvage minus salvage value.
Exactly.
That's 2335.
So 2335 should be the correct answer. Yes, because we're dealing with a salvage value. There is a salvage value. Okay. What is my rate going to look like? What is my rate?
I'm not sure with the figure. I was gonna calculate 1 divided by 7 years.
Correct? So what's the figure there?
14.28.
Yes. Let's extend it out. It stops at 14.286. Oh, nope, I'm getting a long huge number. Okay? So, you do have some room and some flexibility if you want to round it to 0, let me see what that 0.1429 if you want to do that.
Yes. Guess it's already close to that.
Question.
Yes.
Being that it's August 25th
Uh-huh.
and we're starting like later in the year, don't you have to times that by 12 or am I somewhere else? Because
We're almost there. We're almost there.
okay, gotcha. Never
Okay.
mind. I'm gonna just sit here and be quiet.
Okay. We're almost there. So here in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and round my number off just because I don't know. I feel like doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and round it off to my fourth decimal point so I don't get too big of a number. Okay, so I'm going to do 14.29. All right, I'm going to hide all these extra zeros because I don't want to see them. Okay, now my depreciation expense, what is it? What is going to be my depreciation expense this time? Okay, what is my
So we do
depreciation?
is this where we divide the month and all of that good stuff?
Correct.
Okay. No, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Okay.
So what am I going to times it by?
Times 12 divided by, oh wait, I'm sorry. No, we're looking at depreciation expense.
Correct.
5 times the rate,
Good.
1439.
Uh-huh.
But then we are calculating for the month.
Correct.
So we have to divide that. One
Is that 4 times 12?
Why 4 times 12? Now, let's look at this carefully. Let's look at this carefully. Are we doing it by year?
Oh, quarter. Are we doing it by quarter?
It's by month.
Are we doing it by quarter? What does this scenario say?
Assume that adjustments are at the end of every month. So we're calculating the depreciation every month. not every
Correct.
year or nor quarter.
Correct. Correct.
And that means what?
The formula that I didn't know. I'm sorry.
No, I'm asking Lynn.
I'm having you guys discuss it out.
Being frank, you know.
I'm asking you guys to work it out. So how do we do this? Okay, let's go ahead. You know what? Let's go ahead and solve it for one whole year. What is it going to be like for the whole year? Just do it. So what is 2335 multiplied by the rate? What is the depreciation expense for the whole year?
It's 190.77.
What?
Oh, wait. For the whole year?
For the whole year.
2,335 times the rate. Times 0.1429. Yeah,
333.67.
Right?
I've said
Yeah.
$333.67. Is that what everyone else got?
I got 57. Why did I get 57?
Oh, you didn't round this off. You probably left it in. And so it's probably like this. There you go, 57. Okay? I chose to round it, but in this case, you don't have to round it. It's whatever you want to choose it, but I chose to round it by 4 decimal points.
Okay. So when I did it your way, I got the $333.57.
That's if you did not round. My way
Okay.
is I rounded at the 4th decimal point. Because I was just like, I don't know. It's going to be difficult to calculate if you don't have Excel. Especially that number right here. Or because you're not going to type in 0.1428567. So that's why I rounded by to the nearest penny. So in this case, your number's gonna look slightly off, but I'm gonna go
Mine
ahead.
looks like yours
Huh?
right now. The 0.1429, mine looks like that.
Yeah.
And I still okay, so I got 333 or 333.57.
That's when you don't
But
round
you
your
said-
number.
Okay, so how do you round it in Excel?
You just type it in. You either type it in or there's no point. There's really no point to use equal round because it's you can just look at your number up at the top, right, to format your number. Okay, so in your Excel, right, you display that here. you display this right here, right? But if you keep extending it out the decimal points here, you're gonna see that it's not that much. It rounds it for you, and it shows as if it is 1.4 1.429. But in this case, what I did is I just typed it in 0.1429. There you go. It's rounded to the nearest 4 pennies,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay.
And then now, with that being said, because again, I don't want you to have, if you guys don't have calculators, you're not going to get this right answer. So that's why I chose to round my rate to now to 1.49 to 1.429. And here, I get $333.67. Okay? That is equivalent for one whole year. Now, let's go ahead and take a step back. Okay? We don't want a whole year. We want it on a monthly basis. Okay? So how do you determine how much 1 month is?
333.67 divided by 12.
Exactly. That's it.
The figure we have is based on a 1 year.
Yes. So
27.80.
divided by 12, and we get $27.81 per month. We're not dealing with partial years per se because we're dealing with on a month-to-month basis. Partial years only applies if you're looking at it at a yearly basis, right? So in this case, I threw in a little trick for you to understand that yes, we're dealing with partial years, but in this case, we're depreciating it every month. So does it matter at the end of the day? Partial years? No, because we're doing it on a month-to-month basis. So in this case, we don't even care. But what you're going to notice is when you reached your, 7 years times 12? When you reach your 84 month, that's when you're going to have to stop depreciating because you've reached the full 7 years of its assets worth. Yes? So in this case, we still use the useful life, but because it's not partial years because you're doing month to month basis, it doesn't matter when you start. Okay, so every single month it's going to look identical. All right, so what is my depreciation, accumulated depreciation going to be?
The same, 27.81.
Good. And my total amount is, what's my book value going to look like?
2457.19.
2.
Minus the accumulated depreciation. 2457.19.
Okay. Okay. So 27.81 is going to be my, accumulated depreciation. No, I know I need to change this one. 27.81. Okay, and we know that this is going to equal this. So in this case, yes, my total amount should be 2757.19. So what's the assumption that my depreciation basis is going to look like?
The same.
The same. Good.
Same thing with the rate and the depreciation expense.
Let's hold on. 2335. All right, I keep forgetting that my formula will not apply. So there you go. My rate is still going to be this number here, which is the 1429 because I rounded for those who have calculators. And then my depreciation expense should look the same every month. This is on a month-to-month basis. Okay? And then my accumulated depreciation is going to be, oh, I forgot there's no formula.
562.
5562 plus this. Good. Which gives me a book value of
2429.38.
oh, I forgot to absolute that cell reference. There you go. So, what was your number again, Lynette?
2429.38.
2429.38. Good. Okay. What is my accumulated depreciation for the third month?
8343.
8343. And what is my book value going to be for the third month?
2401.57.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just stop you from calculating and just pull my formulas down so we can speed up everything. Yep. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like at the end of 7 months. Now, let's look at our whatchamacallit. So we placed it in service, right? Because we placed it in service in August 25th. All right. So how many months are we depreciating as far as if we were to assume that the adjustment were to be happen at the end of the year? So now I'm going back to partial years. So if I'm calculating, how many months do you say?
4 months.
4 months. So we got September, we got October, November, and December, right? So let's look at our accumulated depreciation. How much in total was 4 months worth? 111.24 is our total amount that we've accumulated within the 4 months. Okay, so using this way too can also provide you the same exact answers as if you are doing partial years, except the only thing that you're doing here is you're dealing it on a month-to-month basis. So let's go ahead and answer the next 2 questions. So the next 2 questions is to journalize the depreciation for the first and second month. For the month of August and for the month of September. Okay? So, how do we journalize for the month of August?
Depreciation expense?
No.
For the month of August, none, because you're at the end of almost the end of the month, so you start calculating for September.
Correct. So in this case, this is also another trick question that you need to be aware of, okay? This question asks me to depreciate or do the adjustment entry for the month of August. And because of the rule where you place it into service on August 25th, right? We don't need to depreciate for that month because it's beyond its half of the month portion, right? There's no purpose to depreciate only 5 days out of the month. Okay, so in this case, no entry is needed for August. So I'm going to go ahead and place no entry here. Okay, and this is for,
But your question there is of the year. So does that mean we have to calculate basically?
well, look at this. Okay, so the question is record the adjustment entry, okay, of on the month of August of the first year. So I'm saying on the first year in August, right, when you placed it into service, what happened there? Can we depreciate anything? Is there anything to depreciate?
None.
Okay, so if I place my asset, right, in 2015 on the first year in August, which is as of August 15, will I have a depreciation expense at all?
August 15, yes.
Again, if I place the machine in service on August 25th, 2015, right?
None.
And I'm asking you to journalize the adjustment entry on August 2015, August 31st of 2015.
Of the first year. Okay.
Yes,
No,
of
I
the
got it.
first year. Yes, right?
Okay.
Okay. So in this case, there is no entry here. Entry. And no entry. And I'm just going to also put here August 31st so that you guys can have a reference to this exact question, right? Okay. So the next question says, now it says to record the adjustment on the month of September of the first year. So what happened in September of the first year?
Tell you.
Depreciation expense of 2781.
Depreciation expense for 2781. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and indicate September 31st, right? I'm just assuming it's at the end of the month. That's what adjustments are. Okay. So I have depreciation expense. Good. For, ooh, I didn't finish that. Depreciation expense for $27 for $27.81. Okay, and then lastly, what is my credit going to be?
The same amount, 2781, accumulated depreciation.
Accumulated depreciation. Okay, and we're gonna say for the $27.81. Right. Now, question number 7 asks you to record the adjustment entry for the first year. Okay, assuming that the depreciation adjustment is going to be on December 31st and was calculated annually. So in this case, I already asked you the question, so we solved it for after 4 months, right? So this is September, October, November, December. So here we recognize that the total amount of depreciation that we collected was 111 and 24 cents. Okay, so in this case, I'm assuming that my journal entry is going to be for December 31st, right? Assuming this is the annual, right? All right. And what was it again? It was 111.24. Okay. Any questions in regards to this exact problem that we've done. Okay. Any questions?
For on the question on number 7,
Mm-hmm.
we're only calculating for the first year from the date of purchase. So only those 4 months at the end of the year. That can
Correct.
be calculated. Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
Yep, for the first year. So again, for the first year, we recognize this as a partial years because we placed it into service on August 25th. So we know that we need to do September, October, November, and December. Okay. You can calculate on the side, but I can guarantee you're going to get similar, if not the same answer as 111.24. Something like that, right? I think you might be off by a couple pennies.
The same.
Okay.
I calculated 2781 times 4 months.
Okay.
The same. 111.24.
Good. All right. Any questions in regards to straight line? No?
None so far.
Okay, so let's go ahead and complete our last question of the day, which is to go ahead and do amortization. So in this case, on January 12th, okay, you purchased a copyright for $2,500. Its useful life is 15 years. Okay, so what is my asset?
Copyright.
It's a copyright. Okay, what is the asset cost?
2,500.
2,500. So let me. Okay. Of course, there's no salvage value, but what is my useful life?
15 years.
15 years. And then my date that I placed into service.
January 12th.
So what does that tell you?
Calculated on the whole month, basically, of January.
Good. Good. So again, what is my depreciation basis going to look like?
2,500.
It's
There's no
2,500.
good. It's going to be the cost of your asset. Good. Okay. Let me, I think I had to absolute cell reference. There you go. Nope. There you go. And what's my rate going to look like?
0.0667.
Okay, so it's going to be that long number.
Yeah.
Okay. I live into 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, do you want to round it to the nearest 4 decimal places?
Yeah.
Yes, so 0.0667.
I don't know with the rest.
667. Okay, just so that it indicates that we're rounding now to 0.0667. So what's my depreciation base expense going to look like?
166.75. Depreciation basis times the rate.
It's going to be 16675. Okay, so then what's my accumulated depreciation going to be?
Same amount.
Good.
0.
Yes, and my book value is going to be
2333.25.
6333.25. Okay. So in this case, can we safely assume that the depreciation basis is going to stay the same?
Yes.
Yes. It will stay the same for the next 5 years. What about my rate?
Same.
It will stay the same for the next 5 years. Okay? And then my rate,
Same.
my expense is going to stay the same.
Same.
So therefore, what is going to be my accumulated depreciation for the second year?
333.50.
Mm-hmm. Making my book value to be
2166.50.
good. What's my accumulated depreciation for the third year?
I have the rest answer.
Mia?
$525. $500.25.
Good. Vina, you want to answer? Anna? Anybody? Nora?
I'm here. I'm not. Let me. Like confused about it.
That's fine. So what's the book value going to be for the third year?
1666.25.
25 cents?
Oh, I'm wrong. I used the wrong number for I didn't use the cost of the asset. So I got it wrong. Let me do it again.
Okay.
2500 minus 500.25.
2,500. All right. Mia, did you end up getting this exact answer right here?
Right now I did.
Okay. All right. Good.
2.75.
Good.
I don't have the other answer from. I'm trying to figure that out, but that's okay.
Oh, which answer? The one above it?
No, the one that I just gave you.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how you figured that one out either. I was just like, I just pulled down the answer and I was like, what? Wait, what? Okay. So, let's go ahead and solve for the rest. So, what's the fourth year's accumulated depreciation?
667.
$667 even, giving me a grand total of my book value to be
1833.
1833. And then lastly, my fifth year of accumulated depreciation is going to be
833.75.
833.75, giving me a grand total of
1666.25.
okay, 16625. Okay. So again, this can go on for 15 years. But in this case, I decided to shorten it because, like, we understand the concept, right? Everything's going to look alike. All we do is just recalculating our accumulated depreciation and our book value for the rest of its years. So there's really no point to have you guys do all 15 years. It's just going to look identical. Okay, so let's go ahead and journalize this for now. Go ahead and do the adjustment entry for the first year. Okay, so we
The amortization or the same as the because I was about to write amortization something.
Well, what are we doing? What is a copyright?
Then it would be depreciation expense.
Not depreciation expense. What are we looking at?
Adjustment entry of the
We're looking at an intangible asset.
Yes, we're looking at an intangible asset. So therefore, the reason why I left the table as is because essentially we are taking the same exact formulas that applied for straight line, right? Because that's what we need to, we need to keep that consistent, right? I don't want to throw you guys off and be like amortization expense. No. I want you to utilize amortization expense as if you are using the straight line method. So that's why I kept it the way it is. But in this case, we are looking at an intangible asset. And how do we depreciate a tangible assets? I don't know if you, okay, I did air quotes. How do we depreciate and amortize it? How do we depreciate intangible assets?
You amortize it.
You correct. So what is my journal entry going to look like for this scenario? So for the first year, okay, assuming that it's on December 31st, what is my journal entry going to look like?
Amortization expense.
Good. Amortization expense. Amortization. Oh, there you go. Amortization. ION. Expense. Okay. And then what is my credit account going to look like?
Accumulated amortization.
Correct. Because we're looking at an intangible asset. Okay. And for what amount are we going to do it every single year?
$166.75.
166 and 75 cents is correct. Okay. And again, because we know that the second year, right, is going to look identical every single year, you can safely assume that if I were to journalize my second year's worth of amortization, it would look identical. Okay. Any questions in regards to amortization? Okay. All right.
I don't have any questions, but for whatever reason, whenever I'm doing the equations in Excel, I'm getting completely different numbers. And I'm putting in the exact numbers that you're putting in. So I think you can explain it to me, but it's still not going to make sense.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. I can answer that question in a
Because I
second.
keep coming up with